We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday. Nick Barris along with Metro Vice Mayor Jim Shulman, Metro Nashville Vice Mayor Jim Shulman. If you have a question or comment, call in right now, 737-7587 on the plus. You can also message us on Facebook, streaming live at newschannel5.com. Let's get to some of the calls waited through the break, Jim. And we'll go first. First phone call this morning is Ronnie. Good morning, Ronnie.
Good morning. I got 3 short questions.
All right.
Okay, I ain't got my stimulus check yet, and I'm on disability SSI.
Okay.
And everybody's saying you got to go online and put a request in. Is that true?
No, I mean, it depends on the situation. That's a little off topic for Jim, but if you get Social Security or disability, if you get that mailed to you right now, or do you get direct deposit for anything from the government right now?
Yeah, direct deposit.
Okay.
It goes in my bank.
Well, and it's what, Social Security?
SSI.
SSI. Yeah. Well, it should go, unless you're being claimed as a dependent, that money should go directly into your account the same way your SSI check does. There's nothing you have to do as long as they have that information.
But I will say, if he's having,
my next question.
What were you going to say, Jim? Hold on.
If he's having trouble, if he hadn't gotten it and he just wants to check, I'd call Congressman Cooper's office.
Yeah.
Call Jim Cooper's office and say, look, you know, I'm worried, I'm concerned about it, can you check? I mean, there's no reason not to go ahead and call. That's what I would do, is call the congressman's office and check.
That's a good place to start as well. What's your other question, Ronnie?
Okay, my other question is, this coronavirus ain't going to go away if everybody don't wear masks. I go to stores and they're awful close to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the things that the council is going to look at tonight is, you know, when they open up more, requiring. But I think most businesses, I think most of them, just want to open, but they're going to try to abide by some of these standards and be wearing the mask, maybe be wearing gloves and social distancing. Now, the customers themselves, when they come in, I mean, you can require them to come in. If they don't want to wear a mask, they don't have to come in. What do you think?
You know, we'll see what happens with the bill tonight, but I will tell you this, just thinking about retail, restaurants, I mean, Ronnie makes a really valid point. This thing is not going to go away. I mean, it's around until we figure out how to vaccinate it away or come up with some other solution. I would hate to be, I mean, the pressure is also on restaurants and retail and everything else to keep people safe, because you certainly don't want a connection with this thing that your restaurant, you know, people came in and got sick because they weren't practicing proper social distancing, using the right health protocols and so forth. So I would really encourage people to wear masks, to practice social distancing. Nick, I was listening to radio coming in again, and you know, people I know are mad and they want to open things back up. But it seems to me that I understand that, but if you're protesting, it makes a lot more, it really strengthens their argument if they're using proper social distancing and wearing masks. I know they may not like it, but this thing is real. And I know the concern is that, you know, if you're not careful, you can get it. It may not impact you, but you can give it to somebody else who may be older, who may have health problems. You got to be careful. So.
Listen, I don't disagree. I'm in favor of the idea of opening up, and I sympathize with all these businesses and such, and so I'm for it. Just do it, taking the proper precautions. I mean, it's just common sense. And the ones who are saying, just, oh, forget it, I'm going to do whatever I want, it's just selfish, all right? But opening up, I can see why there's protesters, because people are suffering through this. There's a way to do it safely. I mean, just be smart.
I know people want to open up. I mean,
sure.
I mean, at this point, I know, you know, with all the other surrounding counties around us opening up, at some point it's time for us to open up as well, because people are just driving outside the county if they really want to go do something. So we need to start opening up fairly soon as well. I know the mayor is being very, very careful. I appreciate that. But obviously we're going to open up at some point. But when we open up, again, got to be careful, because we do not want to close back down.
Let's go next to Ann. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning. First, I have 2 questions or comments. First, the 298 workers that tested positive at the Tyson plant, does that number get accredited to the county, or do those numbers get spread out to the counties in which those workers live? And my second comment or question is, on my little street in the last 7 days have been 2 house parties which had well more than 10 people attending, none of which were wearing masks, along with numerous people my family members have reported in the stores not wearing masks. So, one, with no enforcement being made of people not wearing masks, should the parties have been reported, and to whom should I have reported the parties to?
Okay, yeah. A lot of people wonder. They see things and like, well, who do we tell?
So the first question is a good question. I'm not sure, because she's talking about the Tyson situation in Goodlettsville, and you know, it could be either Davidson or Sumner County if they're just reporting based upon where the facility is, but it also could be where the people live. So I don't know, but I can find out, Nick, and let you know, because that's a good question. In terms of this other thing, that's also a really good question. So here's what I would advise you to do. You know, I don't think anybody wants to go arrest people for not practicing social distancing and health protocols. But we've gotten calls from people that drive by parks and see people playing basketball and doing other things. And what I've told them is, look, you know, you can either go yourself, which is sometimes a good idea and sometimes not, and say, hey, look, you all, you know, just please be careful, and see if they can do it that way. The other thing you can do if it's in a park is call the park police and get them to go over and say, look, you know, this is why you shouldn't be doing this, you need to stop. Or you can call the police and just report it that way, and if they have a minute, they'll hopefully swing by and say, you know, you all are, you need to be careful. And again, Ann's point is well taken from the standpoint of, you know, people may get together and think it's fun and it's like, yeah, we're great, we're healthy, blah, blah, blah. But if it passes, again, you got to remember that if you're not careful, you can then go home, and if you're not careful, you can pass it to somebody who gets really, really sick. That's that problem. And I'd report it. I wouldn't necessarily take the law into my own hands. I'd think, you know, if you're really concerned, you might call the police and see if you can get them to kind of swing by and just say, you all need to be careful.
Let's go next to Robert. Robert, good morning. Hi, Robert.
Oh, good morning. The two things, you know, we should have like emergency funding from the federal government. Where is the money? Instead of paying a lot of taxes, that could go in tandem. And the other thing about voting, you know, presidential election next year, we're going to have to call in and get special voting times to go.
Well, a couple things now. Of course, the election later this year, and the question of how that will be held is something that will be discussed depending on how things go. But now the mayor, with regard to the federal government coming in and rescuing us, made it really clear when he made his initial announcement that would be nice, but there's not money coming in that could help defer this property tax increase that's being proposed. Yeah, so you know, when people say you got to look at all the options, you know, we certainly hoped that all this federal money that's coming in, particularly to the states, would also flow down to the cities. I know the part, we're getting about $120 million for some type of COVID-19 relief that'll come in, so we can use that. That's actually decreasing the amount of what our shortfall would have been. But obviously the federal government, which is their right, put some stipulations on these funds that came in, and so it couldn't just be to go wipe out people's, you know, budget deficits. Now, I know that there's still discussions going on in Washington, and I know that information is flowing, you know, just as it flows from the federal government down to local, it's flowing back up to say, look, I mean, this is nobody expected this, but if you're gonna help, this is where we need help. And so, Robert, I wouldn't, you know, we'll keep working on it. Obviously, if there's a change, then we'll know, the mayor will know, the council will know, and we'll see what we can do. But at this point, it's limited as to what
we can use those funds for.
I mean, cities across the country, Jim, are going to be in similar straits that we are. And what's interesting as we go to the break is that a lot of people wondering, will there maybe be a second stimulus check? I know a lot of people still waiting for their first stimulus payment, but there's talk of that. And at the same time, though, they're also saying, as opposed to spending individual checks to people, there's a good chance lawmakers now will look at maybe helping cities, helping more small businesses, going that way with the money. So I think there's going to be more aid coming. The question is, does it come in a payment to individuals or maybe cities or businesses or medical facilities? Look, we'll take a break on that note. When we come back, if you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to more of your phone calls on MorningLine. We're also streaming live on Facebook. Lots of comments here, which I appreciate seeing how people feel about this. But if you have a question, message me and I'll ask Jim off of Facebook at newschannel5.com. We'll be back with more right after this.